Typhoon Emong unleashed its fury across northern Luzon early Friday morning, making 2 landfalls within 12 hours and triggering widespread flooding, landslides, and emergency evacuations. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, confirmed that Emong first struck Ogno, Pangasinan late Thursday night before accelerating toward Ilocos Sur and La Union for a second landfall just after dawn. Typhoon Emong intensified rapidly from a tropical depression earlier in the week, reaching typhoon status by Thursday morning. At its peak, the storm packed maximum sustained winds of 120 kilometers per hour and gusts up to 165 kilometers per hour, moving northeast at 20 kilometers per hour. PAGASA issued tropical cyclone wind signal number 4 for parts of Ilocos Sur and La Union, warning of life-threatening winds and storm surges. After crossing the mountainous terrain of northern Luzon, Emong emerged over the Babayan Channel and was forecast to pass near the Babayan Islands and Batons later Friday evening. The typhoon brought intense to torrential rainfall exceeding 200 millimeters to several provinces, including Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Abra, and Benguet. The enhanced southwest monsoon, locally known as habagat, compounded the deluge, affecting regions as far south as Metro Manila, Mindoro, and Palawan. In Occidental Mindoro, rainfall totals surpassed 250 millimeters, prompting flash floods that inundated low-lying barangays. In Bulacan, over 200 residents were evacuated as floodwaters rose swiftly overnight. PAGASA issued a storm surge warning for 9 coastal provinces, including Batons, Babayan Islands, Cagayan, Isabela, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, and Zambales. Surge heights ranged from 1 to 3 meters, threatening fishing communities and coastal infrastructure. In San Fernando City, La Union, waves reportedly reached 14 meters, battering seawalls and sweeping away small boats. Authorities urged all mariners to remain in port, citing very rough to high seas across western Luzon. The government suspended classes and work in Metro Manila and 34 provinces on Friday, citing safety concerns and transportation disruptions. The Pasig River ferry service was halted, and number coding schemes were lifted to facilitate emergency mobility. The Department of Education reported damage to over 2,700 classrooms, with 53 completely destroyed. Hygiene facilities in 232 schools were also affected, raising concerns about post-disaster sanitation. Local government units, LGUs, the Philippine Coast Guard, and the 2nd Air Force Wing Reserve led coordinated evacuations and relief missions. In Mindoro, 223 residents were relocated to temporary shelters. In Bataan, a state of calamity was declared after widespread flooding submerged entire barangays. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, NDRRMC, confirmed 12 fatalities linked to Emong and the enhanced monsoon, with several others injured or missing. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology (PHIVOLCS) issued a lahar advisory for Mayon volcano, warning of possible mudflows due to heavy rains. In Laguna de Bay, water levels exceeded critical thresholds, with officials estimating months before normal levels return. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Krosa, located outside the Philippine Area of Responsibility, PAR, continues to be monitored. Though not expected to enter PAR, its interaction with Emong and the monsoon could prolong adverse weather conditions. In Taguigtan, Ilocos Sur, residents described the storm's arrival as sudden and violent. The wind howled like a freight train, said 62-year-old fisherman Ernesto de la Cruz. We barely had time to secure our boats before the waves came crashing in. In Baguio City, landslides blocked major roads, isolating several barangays. Emergency crews worked through the night to clear debris and restore access. Emong is expected to weaken gradually as it interacts with Luzon's mountainous terrain. Pagasa forecasts that the storm will exit the Par by Saturday, July 26th, but lingering rains from the monsoon may persist through Sunday. Authorities continue to monitor the situation closely, urging residents in vulnerable areas to remain vigilant and heed official advisories. Typhoon Emong, international name Kome, which made landfall twice in northern Luzon before weakening into a severe tropical storm, has left a devastating trail of destruction across the Cordillera region and surrounding provinces. The storm triggered landslides, submerged towns, and caused widespread power outages, prompting emergency evacuations and a massive government response. In Baguio City, a landslide struck Purok 2 Outlook Drive at approximately 6:08 a.m. on Friday, partially burying 4 homes. 2 women were rescued and rushed to the hospital, while 1 house was completely covered but fortunately unoccupied. The city's disaster office reported that several barangays experienced blocked roads and collapsed retaining walls. Along Kenan Road in Camp 7, a taxi was trapped by a landslide, rendering the road impassable. Clearing operations were delayed due to the lack of heavy equipment, which the Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH, was mobilizing from nearby provinces. Mayor Benjamin Magalong placed Baguio on high alert at 4 a.m., activating the City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, CDR-RMC, to coordinate rescue and relief efforts. "We are facing a multi-hazard situation," Magalong said. "Flooding, landslides, and outages are happening simultaneously." In La Trinidad, Benguet, the Balili River rose dangerously close to bridge level, threatening nearby homes and businesses. Local authorities issued evacuation advisories as water levels continued to rise throughout the morning. Further north in Bontoc, Mountain Province, the Chico River breached the yellow warning level at 9:05 a.m., prompting the suspension of all river-related activities. Officials cited the combined effects of Emong and the southwest monsoon, habagat, as the cause of the rapid rise in water levels. In Alaminos City, Pangasinan, the Embarcadero Bridge was submerged in floodwaters, cutting off access to several barangays and isolating hundreds of residents. The storm knocked out power in multiple provinces, including Abra, Ilocos Sur, and La Union. Telecommunications were also disrupted, with intermittent mobile signal and internet access reported in Baguio, Benguet, and Mountain Province. The Philippine Military Academy, PMA, in Baguio placed its disaster response task groups on standby, coordinating with the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, RDR-RMC, and the Northern Luzon Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, NDR-RMC, reported that the death toll from the combined effects of Emong, tropical storms Krising and Dante, and the enhanced monsoon has risen to 25. Of these, 3 fatalities have been confirmed, 1 each in central Luzon, northern Mindanao, and the Caraga region. The remaining 22 are under verification. More than 1 million individuals across 4,255 barangays in 17 regions have been affected. As of Friday morning, 47,522 families were sheltering in 1,226 evacuation centers, while 27,685 families sought refuge with relatives or friends. The NDR-RMC estimated PHP 366.9 million in agricultural losses and PHP 3.98 billion in infrastructure damage. Roads, bridges, schools, and public buildings sustained heavy damage, particularly in Ilocos Sur, Abra, and Benguet. The Department of Education, DepEd, reported damage to over 2,400 classrooms, with 562 suffering major damage and 53 completely destroyed. Hygiene facilities in 232 schools were also affected, raising concerns about sanitation in evacuation centers. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, placed several provinces under Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal Number 3, including Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Abra, Apayao, Mountain Province, Benguet, and Cagayan. These areas experienced wind speeds between 89 and 117 kilometers per hour, contributing to structural damage and uprooted trees. A gale warning remained in effect over the seaboards of northern Luzon and the western coasts of central and southern Luzon. Seas reached heights of up to 9 meters, particularly off the coasts of Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, and Zambales, making sea travel extremely dangerous. In Bontoc, local resident Maritz Alanguay described the rising Chico River as terrifying. "We've never seen it swell this fast. The water was nearly at our doorstep by mid-morning," she said. In Cadiz City, Negros Occidental, officials reported PHP 44 million in agricultural damage from flooding between July 17th and 20th, exacerbated by Emong's rains. Governor Eugenio Jose Lacson called for a province-wide review of disaster protocols, emphasizing the need for better coordination and planning. Emong is expected to exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility, PAR, by Saturday morning, but lingering rains from the habagat may continue through the weekend. Authorities are urging residents in flood-prone and landslide-prone areas to remain vigilant and monitor official advisories. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, DSWD, has begun distributing relief goods, while LGUs are conducting damage assessments and planning long-term recovery efforts. A tropical storm was blowing across the Philippines' mountainous north Friday, worsening more than a week of bad weather that has caused at least 25 deaths and prompted evacuations in villages affected by flooding and landslides. The storm was Typhoon Kome when it made landfall Thursday night in the town of Agno in Pangasinan province with maximum sustained winds of 120 kilometers, 74 miles, per hour and gusts of up to 165 kilometers per hour, 102 miles per hour. It was weakening as it advanced northeastward and had sustained winds of 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour, Friday morning. Kome was intensifying seasonal monsoon rains that had swamped a large swath of the country for more than a week. Disaster response officials have received reports of at least 25 deaths since last weekend, mostly due to flash floods, toppled trees, landslides, and electrocution. 8 other people were reported missing. There were no immediate reports of deaths or injuries directly caused by Kome, locally called Emong, the 5th weather disturbance to hit the Philippines since the rainy season started in last month. More than a dozen more tropical storms were expected to batter the Southeast Asian country the rest of the year, forecasters said. The government shut down schools in metropolitan Manila for the 3rd day Friday and suspended classes in 35 provinces in the main northern region of Luzon. At least 77 towns and cities, mostly in Luzon, have declared a state of calamity, a designation that speeds emergency funds and freezes the prices of commodities, including rice. The days of stormy weather have forced 278,000 people to leave their homes for safety in emergency shelters or relatives' homes. Nearly 3,000 houses have been damaged, the government's disaster response agency said. Travel by sea and air has been restricted in northern provinces being pounded or in the typhoon's path. Thousands of army forces, police, Coast Guard personnel, firefighters and civilian volunteers have been deployed to help rescue people in villages swamped in floodwaters or isolated due to roads blocked by landslides, fallen trees, and boulders. After returning from his White House meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. visited emergency shelters Thursday in Rizal Province to help distribute food packs to displaced residents. He later convened an emergency meeting with disaster response officials, where he underscored the need for the government and the people to adapt to and brace for climate change and the larger number of and more unpredictable natural calamities it's setting off. Everything has changed, Marcos said. Let's not say the storm may come, what will happen? Because the storm will really come. The United States, Manila's longtime treaty ally, has pledged to provide military aircraft to airlift food and other aid to remote island provinces and the countryside if the calamity worsens, the Philippines military said. The Philippines, which lies between the Pacific Ocean and the South China Seas, is battered by about 20 typhoons and storms each year. It's often hit by earthquakes and has about 24 active volcanoes, making it one of the world's most disaster-prone countries.
Grabe ka, Emong, ang lupit mo.